Good morning. I'm Dr. Robert Bird from Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health. And on behalf of the foster family agencies and community partners involved with the Foster Together Network, I am honored to welcome you to session 2 of the Foster Together Transforming Caregiving, Building Community conference. This conference is being hosted by Foster Together Network, a collaborative of county departments, county leaders from our FFA, faith-based, and community organizations. I would like to thank the funding partners without whom this conference could not take place: Pritzker Family Foster Care Initiative, Parsons, Keck, Weingart, and First 5 LA. I also want to thank the co-producers of the event, Rochelle Alley of Big Orange Splot, and Rambo House. In addition, I want to take a moment to recognize and thank our caregivers who provide love, guidance, and support to the children and youth of Los Angeles County. This conference brings us all together in appreciation of our caregivers with the goal of strengthening caregiver support and recruitment. Your presence at this conference is a testament to your dedication to the children, youth, and families of Los Angeles, and I sincerely thank you for that dedication and for joining us today. Throughout 2020, the ongoing COVID pandemic, racial injustice, and political tensions have brought numerous challenges to our daily lives. Even small tasks that we once may have done without a second thought, such as collecting our mail or a quick trip to the store to get some tea, suddenly feel so much more demanding. UCLA recently surveyed our resource parents. They found that over 40% of the resource parents reported experiencing stress related to potential job loss or financial hardship. And nearly 50% reported experiencing anxiety related to a family member or friend becoming infected with COVID. As a manager at DMH, I see the toll of the events of this year and how they're playing out among our staff and our community. I also see the need to support our own mental health and well-being, as well as the mental health and well-being of our clients, our resource parents, and our community at large, and it's never been greater. Yet without first taking care of ourselves and putting on our oxygen mask before we try to assist others, our ability to take care of others is really tested. Earlier this year, in recognition of the need to support its staff, DMH made Headspace, an app that teaches meditation and mindfulness, available to all employees. DMH recognized the impact COVID was having on the employees as well as the employees of all county departments, and created an employee well-being line offering confidential counseling and support to all county employees. And DMH has also made a commitment to build and uphold systems that support racial equity and justice by looking at our internal structures and policy and how we deliver services. We've also made a commitment to training staff to facilitate conversations about race that are likely quite similar to the difficult conversations many of us are already having with family and friends about racism and racial inequity. The last 8 months of this year have been challenging and stressful, but I find they've also been a great opportunity to adapt, think outside the box, and learn new ways to support our colleagues, the children and youth we serve, our resource parents, our loved ones, and ourselves. In light of the many challenges we faced and continue to face in 2020, today's session, featuring UCLA expert Dr. Daisy Gomez and others, is so incredibly timely. Dr. Gomez will provide tools we can all use to maintain mental health and well-being in 2020 and beyond. But first, I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce Luz Moran, Children's Services Administrator 3. Ms. Moran has worked for DCFS for 33 years. And during that time, she's learned the importance of mindfulness and self-care, which has subsequently allowed her to continue her charge of advocating for children and families. She will now share some key data and context for why this topic is so relevant at this particular time. Luz Moran.
Hi, my name is Letitia. I'm an emergency shelter care resource parent. I have been for 4 years. During COVID-19, I've been practicing self-care by not focusing on things that I can't change. I have changed my diet intake, which is more fruits and vegetables, my water intake, and I do a lot of spiritual reading as well as watch videos. During COVID-19, I've been keeping in touch with family through Zoom and the prayer line. So with emergency shelter care, it's really been beneficial and helpful to me because I've been able to assist those children that are in need, emergency need. With the program coordinators, they are so helpful. They're always present. Whenever I give a call, they're very helpful, and I'm truly appreciative. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tanisha Johnson, a caregiver from DCFS working with Out-of-Home Emergency Placement Unit. I would like to start by thanking Mr. Sims, Andrea Scott, Jovan, and the entire unit for giving us this platform to discuss our concerns. The effect of COVID-19 pandemic has been severe and pervasive. The predominant emotional impact results from this climate of uncertainty and fear. Not only have I had to maintain a safe and secure environment for myself, simultaneously I've had to protect, instruct, and safeguard those that I am temporarily caring for. Restricting the social interaction that young people thrive upon has been difficult and accompanied by a sense of helplessness because there's no end in sight. I'll be the first to say that I am willing to sit down to put in policy procedures or whatever it may take so that we can get back to serving the population that so needs these homes.
Good morning, everybody. It is a pleasure for me to be here today amongst every single one of you. I agree with Dr. Bird. It's been a year. Today is a perfect day to celebrate every single one of you who has touched the lives of our children and family. We all have that in common. We love our children and families in our communities, and we are committed to making sure that they are safe and thriving, even through these difficult times in 2020. 2020, wow, it did come in with a bang, a pretty important bang, right? It was so hard, and it's been so hard. It's been full of challenges. COVID-19, civil unrest, fires, and so many other challenges that we continue to face on a day-to-day. What I've seen is the resilience that everybody that touches the lives of children and families is impeccable. Today is a day to celebrate your commitment, your accomplishments, and everything else that everybody is doing. Back in August, we had the opportunity to meet with our emergency shelter care staff. Those foster parents that you just heard are part of our foster care staff that take care of our children on a temporary basis. And one of the things that they all commented on was the support that they receive from our social workers. It is so important to stay connected and to hear people and understand people and just be there and be supportive. Resiliency, if any time has been exemplified, it is now. The most important thing for me today to share with all of you is self-care. I've been in this field for 33 years, and I've been one of those people that give, and at the end of the day, I have no more to give. But I've learned in my career that in order to stay intact and continue to provide for the children and families, for ourselves and for our families, we need to take care of us. We need to fill that cup. What does self-care look like? What does it mean? Well, to me, my definition of self-care is whatever makes your heart and soul happy, that is self-care. What does that look like? Well, it can be through prayer. It can be reading, writing, running, hydration, exercise, meditation. It can be all of those things that make you happy. It can be a moment to yourself. Take care of yourself. Invest in your body, mind, and soul. Go to that doctor's appointment. How many of you have made an appointment and not made an appointment and not made it to that appointment? Go to the dentist. Take care of yourselves so that you're able to continue. to walk this journey of incredible successes, because you're touching lives, we're touching lives every single day. UCLA conducted a research of our caregivers, and it came out saying that 83% of our providers have found new ways of connecting. And as you heard our foster parents, yes, absolutely. There's so many ways to connect and continue to connect. I continue to encourage every single one of you to connect. Connecting is a human need. We need it to stay alive. So connect with people in any way you can. Virtually is what we're doing now. It is incredible, the technology that we have in our hands. I think we're so blessed to be able to have technology that allows us the opportunity to connect with every single one of us whenever it's needed. Be kind to each other, be respectful of each other, because we don't know what everybody else is carrying in their plate. It is important to understand that kindness goes a long way. 81% of the respondents to the same survey said that they're more grateful now than they've ever been before. I exercise gratefulness every single day. Being grateful for your blessings, staying positive diminishes the negative, and it makes your life brighter and nicer. It paints a better picture. So let's stay positive and let's continue to be in this together. Let's reach out and touch each other. I'm here if anybody wants to talk about self-care. My staff know me very well, and I'm always a very big proponent of self-care. Take care of yourselves so that you can continue to take care of others. Dr. Bird said it very nicely. Put on your oxygen mask before you help anyone else. Take care of yourselves. Please take care of yourselves. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you our next speaker, who will exemplify resiliency and give us tools that we need to continue to survive through these difficult and challenging times. Her name is Daisy Gomez, and she is a trainer for the UCLA Division of Population Behavioral Health and the Nathanson Family Resilience Center within the Semel Institute for Neuroscience and Behavior Health. Enjoy the rest of your day and have a good day. Blessings to all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for those words of encouragement and true inspiration. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Hope everyone is having a great morning so far. As we heard, it's difficult to maintain our well-being during such difficult times and moments of truly being overwhelmed because of the work that we do and how much we provide others. And when we talk about maintaining well-being, it's important that we exercise our self-care, just as Ms. Lu said. We have to be our greatest cheerleaders because we are often our greatest critics. So for today's segment, I invite you all to use the chat to just share thoughts and comments. If you would like to raise your hand, that's also available. And during this space, we will have an opportunity to break out into groups to have more intimate conversations. And I hope that you enjoy this presentation. It is my pleasure, and I'm truly honored to have been invited to speak to all of you today. And the goals for today are to understand the impact of stress on us that work within systems, learn how to mitigate secondary traumatic stress. We are going to explore how we can enhance our strategies to maintain our well-being during some of the most historical, difficult times in human history. And we're also going to discuss what it means to create our own personal resilience toolkit. So currently, I don't think I have to stress this, but we are, again, during the most difficult times that we might have all experienced as individuals and as a collective community. We have lost the routine of what we consider to be normal. And our moods and feelings have naturally fluctuated with the ever changing of times and the things that we have been asked to do. And I am going to dive into secondary traumatic stress because it could be something that all of us have felt, but maybe we have not had the proper name for it. And it derives from being helpers. When we give so much of ourselves and we hear things, we hear stories, we witness the lives of others be changed in many different ways. Those experiences, even though they're not happening directly to us, they impact us greatly to our core of who we are. And being part of a system that is supporting families, children, and just the individuals that are most in need in our communities is one of the most difficult jobs that you can ever have, which also leads us to moral distress. And it's that emotional pain, that deep-seated pain in our souls when we are unable to do the right thing because of other things that we might, not have control over. We might act in a way in which is personally feeling wrong, but we have to serve in a certain role or system that we can just, there is limited control of the situation. And that impacts the way we feel about ourselves, about the roles and professions that we take, because it undermines our personal values, our integrity, and our authenticity, which is so important to maintaining our well-being. So now I would like to focus more on how do we cultivate our well-being, because we can sit here and talk about stress and trauma all day long, but we all know what that feels like. We might be feeling it today. And if at any point you feel overwhelmed, please feel free to take a break from the screen. Take a moment of reflection and pause and understand that these flooding emotions are like visitors. They are welcome, but we don't expect them to stay. They can come, but they must also go. And that's part of us having the power to regulate. And that is the first component that I would like to speak today about. So what is regulation? We typically define regulation as the ability to effectively manage our emotions and our actions, and having that understanding that our impulses and intense emotions are there for a reason. They're trying to give us clues into that something is happening. And it allows us to better communicate with our higher cognitive thinking so that we can conduct in ways that it's both beneficial for ourselves and for others. And for that, we need a moment of awareness. I like to think of a moment of awareness as a hallway in which there is a door at each end. From one door, you are stepping out full of emotions, overwhelmed with sensations and thoughts. And in this hallway, consider it a matrix of sort that allows for time to stand still, if even for just that second. And it allows you to think and take a breath and consider that the emotions that you are feeling are real and they are valid. It also allows us the opportunity to reduce stress, because when we are in high stressful situations and intense moments of feeling, our judgment is clouded by the cortisol that rushes through our brain and through our body. So when we have that moment in that hallway to really take a breath and reflect on what we're feeling, we provide ourselves an opportunity to reduce that cortisol level and therefore reduce the stress. The practice of doing so, of being okay with not being okay, allows us to bridge those connections in our brain that when we are in high intense feelings and we take a breath and start to connect with our feelings and not judge them or criticize ourselves for feeling that way, but to validate and say, I am feeling overwhelmed. I am feeling frustrated. And really connecting with those deep emotions, it builds resilience in that every time you take that space of awareness, your brain will understand what it is that you're doing and will facilitate that moment so that it can be more productive. And overall, it enhances your well-being, because these things that we are wiring together in our brain in that space of awareness then allows us to walk through the other door, which is how then we allow our feelings to lead our behavior, because our thoughts, our feelings are connected to our behavior. And often when we don't allow ourselves this moment of truly being human, of truly sitting with the fact that we are in our right to feel this way, we might act in ways that we didn't mean to. We might say the wrong things, do the wrong things, think things and thoughts that don't serve us. And therefore, we just grow in greater despair and greater feelings of overwhelm. And I like to also invite you all to consider these moments, intense moments of emotion, as waves. Many of us have been battered by waves, and it leaves us on the floor. It puts us to our knees. But I would like to invite you to learn how to ride the wave, understanding that there will be intense emotions. There will be moments where you just feel that you can no longer sustain these emotions or these thoughts. But there are ways that with practice, we can learn to ride the wave. And we can do so by being resilient and understanding that every moment is fleeting. So how do we do this? How do we ride the wave? We welcome our feelings, our reactions. Allow us to be open to the sensations and the thoughts, again, without judgment, without the shoulds, without the oughts, without the you can't, but allowing them to come. Just as waves will continue to come, so will difficult moments. And remember that you are not a collection of the moments of difficulty that happen to you, but you are a collection of the traits that have been necessary to overcome them. We want to give your full attention to that moment and experience it as it's coming. Stay present to the full experience by naming it, describing what it is that's happening inside your body and inside your mind. Dr. Dan Siegel has this great term, name it to tame it. If you are able to accurately connect with yourself, provide yourself that moment of compassion and name what it is that you're feeling, your brain then denotes that feeling and understands that no, you are not running for your life. You are having intense emotions, but you are okay. You will survive this moment, because we need to validate our truth. As Shakespeare once said, to thyself be true. Because when we identify with our truth and our experience, and we are okay with not being okay, because some thoughts and some beliefs and body sensations might be too overwhelming to feel in the moment, but we give ourselves permission and validate our truth, we are then able to exhale. Exhale by letting go of any resistance, letting go of the thoughts that do not serve you, and allow your body and your mind to soften and to settle into what is in that moment. And again, understanding and providing yourself with that comfort that just as this moment came, this moment will pass. Understanding emotions. Understanding emotions means that we are aware that our thoughts influence our actions. Our emotions are clues into when something is important to us, when something provides us joy, when sometimes things don't feel right. And having that space, again, that hallway to allow ourselves for the understanding allows us to better regulate, putting on our glasses of what is what. What is what? Because when we are in intense moments of emotions and feelings, that clouds our judgment. And let me tell you, the mind is so powerful, but it plays tricks on us, especially during high moments of stress. And to talk about some of the common distortions that happen, I would like to introduce to you Cogni, our raccoon. We found that it's not always fun to talk about common distortions. And since we all have them, I think it helps to normalize by externalizing it through Cogni. So Cogni is going to help me talk about some of the common distortions that happen when we are in high intense feelings of stress and feeling overwhelmed. We might find ourselves thinking that it's all or nothing. Either you like me or you don't. Either I'm in this kill diet or I'm not. So understanding that sometimes our mind will limit the true capacity of what we are able to do and what we are able to control. And that is a very common distortion. We also have emotional reasoning, and that is when we start to personalize. We personalize things and we begin to think that the actions or inactions of others must have something to do with us. So we might send a text to someone or an email to someone and we don't hear back. We might say, well, they must not like me. I must have done something or said something to bother this individual. So when we make the negative things that are happening around us about us, remember that is a cognitive thought distortion. Obviously, things are out of our control, but when we blame ourselves for those things that are out of our control, those are mind tricks. So remember to have that flexibility and that compassion. We are also victim to the should statements. I should be on that kale salad diet. I should only drink water and not put sugar in my coffee. But sometimes these shoulds just create physiological distress. So as you see here, the shoulds and the constant feeling of I should do this, I should do this, is making Cogni feel some rumbling in the tummy, which is very common. When we hold this stress and we allow these cognitive thought distortions to run our mind, our body will start to give you hints that there is a lot of stress in the body. Whether you carry it through your body, you have headaches, you have stomach aches, remember that these are clues to take a moment of awareness, to step into that hallway, to really provide yourself with that compassion. If not, it can eat us up alive. It can be part of our internalization and therefore cause us more harm. Personalization. We begin to see things and see ourselves as a problem. When we cannot do anything right, is part of that mind trick that there must be something wrong with me. I am just no good. I am not this. I am not that. Remember that again, that stress will do this to you. And again, remember that stress is a chemical in our brain and it's put there for us to survive. However, before, stress was one of the things that kept us alive from bears and animals. Now, stress is activated when we have a bill that's due, when we have cases that we need to get to. But remember that it's not beneficial to us to sit into these mind tricks, into these distortions of thoughts, because stress has nowhere else to go. But when we allow ourselves to be cognizant of these distortions and see them when they're coming, then we're better able to understand what's really going on. One of the other ones is mind reading. We might often find ourselves thinking that we know what others are thinking about. we might find ourselves, believing that we know why people do what they do. But, and sometimes that might bring us distress, because again, we might be going into some of the other ones, emotional reason, personalization. These don't happen in silos. These often happen together, jumbled up. But when you're able to name it, you're able to tame it. Negative filter. Negative filter. So what glasses are you going to wear today? Are you going to put your rosy glasses? Or are you going to put your bad news, bad mood glasses? You have that power. You have that ability to change the script and understand that just as your mind plays tricks on you, you can use it to facilitate your well-being. You can use it to change the way you feel at the moment. And there's always things around you, stimulations you can use, such as listening to your favorite song, taking a moment away from the screen and watching something that brings you joy, going back to the classics if that puts you in a soothing and good feeling spot. One of the other things that we do often is catastrophize. We often find ourselves looking at small, manageable issues, such as 1+1, but in moments of intensity, it feels like it's the end of the world. How am I going to add one more thing to my daily to-do? How am I going to get 30 minutes of, maintaining well-being into my schedule when I have 101 things to do before that? Again, remember, these are common thought distortions. We have the ability to really take a pause and reflect on what's what. And one of the last examples we have here is forecasting. When we are deep-seated in our negative filters, we might think we have the ability to predict what's happening. And when we are flooded with those intense hormones of cortisol and some of the other not so very hopeful things that happen, such as physiological pain, or again some of these other thought distortions, we might believe that there's sudden doom happening, that the future does not look bright at all and actually looks worse. And again, remember that these are all very common thoughts, and you're not alone in feeling sometimes overwhelmed. But these, again, are not the truth. They're not reality. So allow yourself some of that understanding that these are human. These are human conditioning thoughts that happen because we have allowed ourselves to practice them. These are all just practice habits. And when we get into intense emotions, this is what happens. We go into what we know, and maybe we have been taught to think negatively. Maybe we have seen it, we have heard it, and it has been so commonly, ingrained in us. Then how can we do different? How can we do different if we haven't been taught? So in the chat, if these sound familiar, give me a yay or a nay, but remember that we're not alone in having these mind and thought distortions. Some of us might see that we have now just put words to some of the common thoughts we have, but remember that it's always in perspective. Keeping grasp of reality can really help us move along through difficult times. Thank you, Kenneth. Yes, you are not alone. These are the truths. And yes, we need to name it, attain it. It truly is beneficial. Cogni is so wise. I know, that's why I love to bring them along to help me with these cognitive distortions, because they are not fun to talk about. And often we have them so pervasive in our mind that sometimes we just need a visualization of how this happens. We're going to move along because I really want to have time for the breakout room. And it leads us into professional boundaries. So professional boundaries are essential for well-being. We are in a moment of time when we have most pushed against our boundaries. And we define these as the limits and responsibilities when interacting with others, and the things that we do are able to do, and you know things, boundaries, I would like to call them soft and soft and fluffy pillows that we put around us. Boundaries usually have a negative connotation to them, as in I have to put a boundary, meaning we have to be strict or we have to be stern. But in fact, setting boundaries can be very loving, can be very soothing for both parties, and it can also allow relationships to heal. It can also extend that opportunity for others to place their boundaries and learn how to do so in an effective way. Some of the different categories of boundaries are physical. Some of us are huggers, some of us are not. And I think we're probably not going to be handshakers for any time soon. So understanding our physical comfort, are we going to be air fiving? Are we going to be doing the knot? Whatever it is, placing that boundary. I don't know about you all, but right before quarantine, right before it really hit, I delivered a training with over 200 people. And I felt some sort of way because there were individuals that still wanted to shake my hand. And I did it, but I felt something inside of me. I felt concern. And I didn't want to make them feel bad. And that's one of the things when it comes to setting boundaries. We are in fear that someone's going to get their feelings hurt. But in fact, acknowledging that there is this weirdness around physical boundaries and saying, how about we do the head nod from, 6 feet apart? Again, naming it so that we can better have the understanding of what our safety boundaries are. We also have intellectual boundaries, respect for each other's thoughts, ideas, and opinions. Emotional, our openness to share our feelings. Some of us might be open to share our feelings and can do so easily, while others might refrain and might not be as comfortable sharing feelings because, again, we might be accustomed to not sharing them. We might have never been taught how to be emotionally open. Material boundaries. More than ever now, we are coming to understand that, having a space where we share with others and we share for long periods of time, we can find that, well, you might be using my this or my that too much. Understanding that it's okay to set boundaries. You can use my laptop, but you can also only do it for 20 minutes. Well, at least that's what I tell my daughter. But again, understanding that there are different types of boundaries and all of them are okay to name. And time. And I bet time is a difficult one for all of you, because what is time now? What is time? So understanding that we are allowed to continue to be human. We are not just the roles and professions that we have taken on, and caring for others is a full-time job. Not only full-time as in 9 to 5, but it's a 24/7. When you have the lives of people in your hands and you feel responsible for their well-being, for their survival, we might be pushing our boundaries and putting too much time into focusing on work. And sometimes that is needed, but not always. And allowing yourself to take some time for yourself, for your family, for your needs. Because if we don't, that will lead us into moral distress. It will push us into burnout. And for us to sustain our capacity of being the helpers, of being those that people come to, requires you to put yourself first. And it's not being selfish. is exercising self-love. So in the chat, I would like to hear what are some of the difficulties to maintain professional boundaries, especially in the now. What are some of the difficulties that we are being most challenged with? Thank you, Ms. Moran. What are the challenges? Are we overworking, or is that just me? Just because I preach it doesn't mean that I don't need a reminder as well. We all do something that we love, and we do it for loving reasons, but yes, overworking. Letting home stress interfere with professional life, or vice versa. Finding a balance between work and virtual. Oh, yes, homeschooling. I'm glad you can't hear my daughter in the other room, but she is zooming away as we have our space here. Distractions, big time. It's so easy to work all day long, especially when time has blurred. I sometimes don't know what time it is, don't know what day it is. Overworking. Hard to balance caring for family and work. Can't control a 3-year-old. Hey, nobody can control a 3-year-old, so don't feel bad about that. Yes, not feeling like a failure when we put up boundaries. Yeah, putting boundaries is difficult, but understand. Full-time parent, full-time teacher. Oh, yes. We have been truly pushed to be superheroes. I can tell you that. Yes, it's so difficult. Again, we need to normalize the fact that nothing is normal. Normalize the fact that in the minute to minute, we are having these emotions of roller coasters, and that's okay. It's okay. We just need to watch it. We need to watch it and name it. Caring for extended family. Yes, definitely. That is so overwhelming, having so many lives that depend on you. Even more reason for you to put yourself first. And again, it's not selfish. It is necessary. You cannot extend, and I love that analogy that Dr. Bird shared, that you cannot, attempt to save others when you yourself cannot breathe. You cannot be sending off life jackets when you too are in that ocean. So we need to understand, it feels selfish. It can. Putting yourself first in a society that we've been taught to work, and leave well-being to the very last minute or to the very last priority. But let's reflect on the facts. As a nation, we are number one in depression. Most of our workforce that is out in disability, they are out because of burnout. So do not feel selfish, because we are one of the most hardworking people. And when you work hard, it's okay to give yourself back that time of compassion and nourish yourself. Because if you don't nourish, you will not flourish. And if you work, what happens if you burn out? Who's going to take your place? So let's remember that we are very essential in our families, essential in the work that we do, and essential with purpose in this world. We don't know what our lifetime will bring, but we definitely know that we have some tough roles and responsibilities. And one of my favorite songs is "Only the Strong Survive." But in order for us to be strong, we have to be mindful of survival, our survival, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. We're a combination of all of those factors, and we cannot ignore one or the other. And as all of you mentioned in the chat, setting boundaries is tough. Someone is going to get their feelings hurt. And sometimes saying no feels so bad. But we have here a formula. How do we set firm but loving boundaries? And these are not step by step. These can happen in a combination, but we really want to ask clarifying questions. We really want to acknowledge and be sure of what was being asked of us, whether it's by someone else, whether it's by our job, or whether we are the ones pushing ourselves, asking clarifying questions. So for myself, I can say, Daisy, do you really need to stay up till midnight to finish this project? Can it wait till tomorrow? Well, sometimes the answer is yes, of course it can wait. But many times I'll be like, no, just get it done, right? But again, expressing empathy, even to yourself, convey your understanding and what the needs that you are. I need to sleep. So sometimes I have this back and forth with my own self. Be like, no, you can go ahead and sleep because tomorrow's another day. And your mind will be fresher and you'll be able to do a better job. And setting limits. Address what is and what is not possible for you. I cannot stay up till midnight every day. Let me tell you, I have been very routine set on going to bed early because my daughter has to go to bed early. And again, remember that as a role model, you're being watched. People are learning from you how to take care of themselves, especially if you're in this profession. They're going to look up to you as the expert. You know best. We will do what you do. So as parents, let's be mindful of the messaging that we give our children. If we have other family members, we have clients that look up to us, we have to lead by example. And in order for us to do so effectively, we have to nourish. We have to nourish. And indicating what you are willing to do. It feels bad to say no. No, I can't do that. But when you say, no, I can't do that right now, how about, and indicate what you are willing to do, what is in your capacity to provide, because then people will be validated. If it's a job or it's a client or it's family members or if it's yourself, allowing yourself to be realistic in your planning. Because when we put out goals for ourselves that are just not realistic, we're going to fall, and we're going to fall hard. It's going to be a lot more difficult to get up. But when we set realistic expectations and pace ourselves, remembering to drink our water, remembering to eat, we might be working from our living rooms, from our dining rooms. We have never been so close to our fridge, and yet we forget to nourish ourselves. So let's be mindful that placing these firm and loving boundaries, again, consider them little fluffy pillows around you, and people will lean into you. You will lean into stuff, but maintaining those boundaries will allow you that cushion for you to continue to be okay and to be the best you that you can be. And with that, we get into our tools. How do we create our personal tools for well-being? And this is where I would like to invite you all to go back to basics by breaking out into groups. And I want you to consider these two prompts. What brought you to what you do, to your work, to your career, to your profession? And what has your path been? Has it been smooth? Has it been windy? Did you always know you wanted to do this? Or did you have other goals, other dreams? But regardless of what those are, I would invite you all to share as much or as little as you would like in your groups. You can do so with camera or without camera. Again, this is about your well-being. If you do not want to share verbally, but would like to share in the chat, please let your colleagues know that that's what you will be doing to remain in your comfort zone. This space is for you. And we're going to break out into our groups, and you don't have to do anything, but enjoy the ride into the breakout room and then enjoy the ride back out, and understand that, this is about connecting ourselves to our whys. So whenever we are ready.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Gomez. I want to say thank you to Dr. Gomez for the valuable information on mindfulness. the cognitive visual, which I'm going to be remembering for a while, and the reminders of the importance of practicing self-compassion and respectfully setting boundaries. The discussions today and comments in the chat exemplify how challenging these times really are for all of us. In fact, since COVID, our department has seen an increase in both the number of clients served as well as the number of services that we're providing to clients. And that's across our directly operated clinics and our contracted providers. And we've actually been able to meet the needs of the community through a variety of efforts. While some of our most intensive programs continue to provide services face-to-face, of course, taking precautions and using PPE, we have increased our telehealth services more than 400% in response to the pandemic. In addition to individual sessions, we offer group sessions virtually, which is important given the results of the UCLA study, which found that 93% of the resource parents who participated in support groups found them to be beneficial. There's some resources I want to highlight that will be added to the chat. One is the LA County DMH hotline, helpline that has been rolled out for all county residents. So the phone number and then the 3 options that are available will be added to the chat. Please take advantage of it. We have people online to support you, counseling services, to connect you to resources that you may need. In addition, since April, Los Angeles County residents have been able to sign up for Headspace Plus subscription and access to hundreds of science-backed guided meditations in both English and Spanish, as well as workout videos, sleep exercises, and informative content about managing stress and anxiety. So you will find that link in the chat as well. We've also expanded our resources for the public on our website. So that link to the DMH government, the DMH resources will be posted in the website. And I really encourage you to take a look at it. There's resources for school, around COVID, around mindfulness and taking care of ourselves. It's really a rich source of information that I would encourage you to check out. And then I want to point out that we have created a speakers bureau with approximately 100 highly skilled presenters available to speak to your groups on a number of mental health topics. So that link will also be in the chat. If you find a need to have some people come talk, we're there. And while group events can be incredibly supportive, sometimes family gatherings, especially during holidays and this time, may be a little bit stressful. So I thought it might be helpful to share some coping tips that were put out by the Cleveland Clinic, and that information will be in the chat. These resources, as well as many others, can also be found at the Foster Together Network website, so please go there and check it out. Before we close today, I want to ask everyone to please take a minute to complete the survey about today's presentation. The link to the survey can be found in the chat, and our webmaster is doing a fantastic job just putting everything there, so thank you. And finally, I want to invite you back to join us for upcoming sessions that we'll be having. If you haven't registered yet, there's a link in the chat to register. On November 5th, we're going to dive into long-term lessons we can learn from COVID crisis and effective recruitment strategies. On November 12th, we're going to take some steps toward tackling the inequities within our foster care system. So I will be joining that one, and I hope you will also. And then on November 19th, the one I've been waiting for since the conference started, will be an opportunity to hear from our youth and how we can do better together with caregiving from the other side of that equation. So please join us for the future topics. And everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. And I wish you health and a great day.